Welcome back to Empathic Chronicles. It has been a minute and I am so excited to be back here with you. Today's episode is one I've been really looking forward to sharing with you. I've held off on this topic for so long on purpose. I didn't really know how to introduce it or approach it. And obviously, talking about this topic that I'm going to talk about today, I wanted to make sure that the other person was okay with it and could understand my reasons behind wanting to talk about such a topic. So, without further ado, grab your cafecito and let's get started. So we're diving into what it's like being married to an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Now, let's keep it real. Every marriage has its unique challenges and layers, but when one partner comes from like a highly structured religious background, like that of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then marries someone who's like the total opposite, has absolutely like no connection to like religion or like only went to church during holidays or like what have you, it can add some unique experiences to the relationship. So let's get into it. A bit of background. So to give some context, and I just want to put this out there for awareness, right? And to just bring awareness to our topic and what we're talking about for this episode. Jehovah's Witnesses are known for their strict rules and deeply embedded beliefs. Now, leaving the religion can often mean losing family relationships, support systems, and even like a part of your identity. So, in my marriage, my husband has been on a journey of not only self-discovery, but also healing. And I'd say this has brought us closer, but it's also been an experience of learning, patience, and growth for both of us. I think one of the things that I struggled with the most, especially when we were first dating, was it was really recent as to when he left the religion, was kind of like when we started dating. And I didn't understand a lot of things. Like, for example, I always wondered why my stuff would be like hidden in a drawer, right? And any initial thoughts of like any woman would be like, oh my God, he has another woman there at the house and he's totally like just like playing you and like this and that, whatever. But then coming to find out and learning that every time that his mom would visit, he would have to hide my stuff, because let alone marrying a Jehovah's Witness, if you're marrying someone who's from what they call the Gentile world, it is like completely frowned upon and just something that should never happen. So for a long time, I didn't understand like why he hid me, like why were you hiding me? Why couldn't you just be like upfront and like stand your ground for like what you wanted? But he's always had a really close relationship with his parents. And that's never been something that like, despite my relationship with my parents, that I wanted to jeopardize for him or cause riffraff in. So, it came with a lot of understanding and it came with a lot of patience and ultimately just like finding common ground. So like one thing that really stands out in our relationship is how we navigate differences in beliefs and values. For my spouse, some things are just naturally shaped by his past and what he grew up in and how he was taught and how he was instructed to live, just a very like disciplined life. Like, for example, my husband barely ever likes to leave the house. He's a total homebody. If it were up to him, he not only would work from home, which he already does, but he would just be home all the time. And when I first started dating him, I didn't understand that, because having been someone that came from like a traumatized childhood, I never wanted to be home. Like, I never wanted to be in the house. Like, I wanted to always find a reason to leave because being out was better than being at home. And that was my scenario. Whereas for him, it was like he was never home. Like, every Saturday, he had to go preach. Every Thursday, they had to go to the service. Every Tuesday, they had to do a Bible study. And like, there was just always something to do. And they were never like at free reins to do what they wanted. And so now that like we've been married almost like 18 years, effective tomorrow, like tomorrow's our anniversary. I'm so excited. But like for him, like it was just completely different and different from the way that I was raised and different from the way that I thought that my marriage life was going to be, you know? So for my spouse, you know, some things are naturally shaped by his past. You know, the fact that he had to get up every morning on a Saturday and preach for hours on end. Like now, even after 18 years, like if he could stay in, he would. You know, but it's been important for both of us to like respect where we each come from. And I think we've done a good job on like meeting halfway and making compromise for, you know, being out of the house versus being in the house. I mean, we've worked really hard on finding common ground while still kind of not kind of, but like fully respecting that our experiences are different, you know? For example, like respecting certain holidays. So like in the beginning so Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate practically anything. And when I first met him, I never understood why, like, he never got me anything for my birthday. He never went out of his way for Christmas. Valentine's Day wasn't like a real thing. Like, you know, he just bought things for me and like gifted me things like whenever he wanted to. And I never understood that because having grown up, like, I would say a non-denominational Christian, because I've always believed in God. I just haven't really ever had like a close relationship with him until now that, you know, I've been baptized and I go to church every Sunday. But like, even with that, it's like I didn't understand why he never bought me gifts. I didn't understand why like he didn't want to decorate for my birthday or like decorate for Christmas. And like trying to like get a tree and ornaments when we were living together was like pulling teeth. Whereas now, 18 years later, like the day after Thanksgiving, we are at that Christmas tree lot getting our Christmas tree, you know. But in the beginning, I didn't know why things were like that. And they made me feel really uncomfortable and really unfamiliar. But then at the same time, when I started to learn and realize, it also made him uncomfortable and very unfamiliar to what I was saying and what I was expecting as his woman to be like, oh, well, you know, I celebrate things, so you should celebrate things with me. He doesn't even know where to start with that because growing up Jehovah's Witnesses, they just didn't do that, you know? So it was like a mix of like being sensitive to his journey and him to mine while still embracing like what felt most true to both of us. And granted, as the years passed by, you know, we started to definitely grow closer to one another and obviously started celebrating things like when we had kids. Like it was very clear that like I wanted to celebrate birthdays with my children. I wanted to celebrate Christmas. I wanted to celebrate everything, you know? And so that was something that, you know, I had to compromise, understanding that, you know, it was going to take him some time to come into his own, but I knew he would get there, you know? And so ultimately, like, it helped us both in the end, you know? So healing and growth as a team. And I say team because, like, I look at my husband and like we're a team, you know, we're husband and wife, but at the end of the day, like we're a team. We do these things together. We go through life together. We make it work, you know. And when my husband left the Jehovah's Witness religion, it wasn't just leaving a religion. It was like leaving a whole world behind. And if you technically want to like get into specifics, he never really left the religion, because in order to leave the religion, you have to like literally like send a letter and let them know like, I am leaving this religion for X reasons and yada, 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 whatever. He didn't even bother with that. He's like, I just don't want this shit to be part of my life, period, you know? So that kind of shift doesn't happen without a lot of emotional work. Over time, he and I both learned that healing from such an experience like he had is a journey. Mind you, I also had a traumatic childhood. So we were kind of both in the same place. And even though it wasn't linear and the past would pop up in unexpected ways, we always found a way to be supportive of each other without rushing the process. Like, I know that for some people that I've met in the past, like leaving the religion brings up feelings of like guilt and sadness and even anger at times. And those were all things that like we went through over the years, you know. You have to feel your feelings, you have to go through the moment, you know. And sometimes my husband, he shares memories of like certain teachings or memories that he had about like certain events, and we ultimately talk about how those experiences shaped him, you know. And so essentially, like, there is a beautiful side to it when you're realizing like where you are today and where you were back then, where you're essentially rediscovering who you are, and free from strict expectations, because living a Jehovah's Witness life has a lot of expectations. You are expected to preach X amount of hours. You are expected to knock on people's doors and knock on X amount of doors. You know, there's just very high expectations. And coming into a relationship with me where, you know, I didn't have any of that. I had the other extreme of like being a parentified child and, you know, having to, you know, raise my siblings, but it wasn't something like him, you know, it wasn't something like, you know, having to read from a Bible at someone's front door when they can technically just like spit on you, you know. And I think that in a way, those experiences, both the ones that he and I have shared with each other, ultimately helped us grow stronger together, you know. Now, mind you, I have an amazing relationship with my mother-in-law. Probably not as amazing as I would like it. Like, we don't sit here and like spend Christmas together. Like, obviously she doesn't do that. But when it comes down to like love and support, I have to say that like I can definitely count on my mother-in-law for that, because she gives it to me. Like, she knows what it's like for me, you know, missing that maternal figure in my life. And I have to say, like, you know, she makes up for it. You know, she really does. She gives me the love and the attention that, you know, I've only yearned for over the years. And my father-in-law, the same, you know. Now, mind you, when they have things like, so in the Jehovah's Witness religion, they have like assemblies, and I mean, they're like kind of like conferences, because I went to one of them way back when they were trying to convert us. And they're like conferences, and you basically just go to like an extended 3-day event where you just sit there and you learn about God and the Jehovah's Witness point of view. And going to those things, like, even though I wasn't a part of it, I still felt loved, you know. And, you know, I don't know, maybe that was part of them trying to like convert us and get us to be like JW, but like ultimately it didn't work. So, you know, here we are today. I go to church every Sunday. I was baptized Christian. I love my church, and I think it's the most, like, I would have to say, out of all the churches that I've gone to, I find that my church is like super laid back. Like, I feel like it's not crazy. There's not, you know, high extremist expectations. Whereas like my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, like, they are extremists. Like, if you ever knew extremists, you would know my in-laws. Like, they are like ride or die, like hardcore. Like, we're not only going to Kingdom Hall, but we're also preaching from home. We're not just preaching, you know, going outside and walking door to door. Like, they are serious about their beliefs. And so that has always been a challenge for us to not only like just respect, but like acclimate and accept that like this is how they are. So like anything that you choose to talk to them about, you know, if it's gonna make them like go into grand detail about religion and God and in their eyes, like you try to stray away from it, you know? So I want to give advice to others that are in similar situations. You know, you meet someone, he has this religious background. It's not something that you feel that you can acclimate to, but you love him or you like him or you feel like you're growing close to him. So like, how do you deal? How do you like, I mean, to be quite honest, like when I first met my husband, I didn't think that we were going to end up staying together because, especially in the beginning, I was like, all this Jehovah's Witness stuff, like, even though he wasn't going to Kingdom Hall, it was like still a part of his life in the sense that, like, the beliefs that he had were biblical beliefs and they were beliefs from a Jehovah's Witness perspective. And that was hard for me to accept. It was hard for me to acclimate to because I just looked at it for what it was, for Jehovah's Witness religion, until I actually took the time. And of course, now 18 years later, to get to know my husband and understand where it was coming from, that we finally like broke through and we were able to like be successfully married, you know, and be together for as long as we have, you know, and truly love each other for who we are, not where we came from, you know, because I always say, like, you are not a byproduct of where you came from. Or what is it? You are not a byproduct of who built you or who raised you. You know, you create your destiny. You don't have to be stuck in that rut, you know, and we both came out of it. So for anyone who might be in a similar situation, either married to, dating, or even close friends with someone who has left a deeply rooted religion like Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know if you guys remember on A&E, but that Leah Remini special where like she went into grand detail about like people who leave religions, Scientology, there you go. And how she actually did a special on Jehovah's Witnesses, and there were so many things that were like relatable, like, you know, the stories about like abuse and like sexual abuse within the church and child abuse from people in the church and like infidelity and, you know, the conditions thereof and, you know, just crazy stuff. Like if you just search up like documentaries on like Jehovah's Witnesses, like it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind because I didn't think that like my in-laws were like that. I was like, oh no, those are not my in-laws. But then like watching those shows and watching those documentaries, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly how my in-laws are. And so for anyone who might be like in a similar situation, like I said, who's left a deeply rooted religion like Jehovah's Witnesses, here are just a few things that I feel I've written here that have really helped us, okay? And this I actually think helped us ultimately like with our relationship. I feel like it was like twofold. Like it helped us together, but it also helped us each understand things ourselves. So like empathy. And obviously it's in complete correlation with the fact that these are empathic chronicles, but practicing empathy. Okay, so trying to understand where your partner is coming from. There are maybe times when certain feelings surface that don't seem logical, but they're valid and they're worth addressing. Like, for example, holidays and the fact that, like, I never understood why my husband never wanted to celebrate holidays with me, or why didn't he go out of his way for my birthday to, like, celebrate me and make a big deal about it. Like, I never understood that until many years later when I was like, okay, hold on. Look at how he was raised. Look at what he went through. Look at how it was for him. And then leaving that, you know, look at it from a, what do they say, like a 30,000 foot view. When you look at things in a different perspective or where you try to see the other side, you can really find some proven validity and just worth in addressing it and just being able to, you know, maybe turn a new leaf and change your perspective, you know. Another one is being patient. Okay. And this I think was easy for me because I've been healing most of my life from what I went through as a child. But healing and rediscovering yourself takes time. And that just doesn't go for like Jehovah's Witness religion. That can go for like your sexuality. That can go for, who you are as a person, and maybe you're changing and becoming somebody else. Whatever the case may be, healing and rediscovering yourself takes time. And your partner may be dealing with years of ingrained beliefs and social pressures. Oh my gosh, like literally to a fault. Like every Saturday morning almost gave my husband like anxiety. If I was like, oh, we're going to wake up Saturday and we're going to go like at 9 a.m. and we're going to go catch this sale, or we're going to go, I don't know, see some dogs or whatever, like it would stress him the F out. Like it would, because he was just that mindset of like, oh shit, we're going to go preach. Oh shit, we're going to go to church. Oh shit, we're going to go to Bible study. Like, why do we have to be somewhere at a certain time? Literally, something as fragile as that literally has a lasting impact with someone who comes from a religion that resembles a cult. And I mean, I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. I feel that the religion resembles a cult. I feel like, much like Scientology, much like the LDS Church of Latter-day Saints, like all that shit, like I feel it's all the same. And so learning patience and being patient with his journey and with myself as someone who wanted to be with him, like I knew I wanted to be with him, but I didn't realize that I was going to have to like understand all these things on top of all the shit that like I had to understand from growing up the way that I did. Like it was just like a hot mess. And so you could only imagine that looking at that from a bird's eye view is like, do I really want to put myself through that? And I mean, here we are 18 years later, it's just, we were meant for each other. And I feel that we both escaped traumatic childhoods. I think that we both experienced abusive childhoods, maybe not all in the same way, but we found each other and we were like each other's escape route or route, whichever you want to call it. Like we were each other's salvation, if you will. And so that brings me to my next tip about communication. So communication is key. Okay. Honest and open communication has helped my husband and I bridge so many gaps and misunderstandings, because I didn't understand why he was the way that he was or why he acted the way that he acted. And it wasn't until like we actually sat down and started having intellectual conversations that I realized, oh, this is why he acts this way. Oh, this is why he says what he says. And when he would share feelings about his past, I had to remember, and I didn't know this at the beginning. I had to learn as I grew, but I listened without judgment. And he ultimately did the same for me, because he understood where I was coming from and how hard it was for me to come from the abusive childhood that I came from. And so once you get through all of that, being patient, being communicative, practicing empathy, you come into the ability to celebrate new beginnings. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 years into us being together where we finally started like, okay, you came from where you came from. I came from where I came from. It's fucked up. It sucks. But let's start building our own traditions. And I think it was when we had kids that we were like, okay, well, I'm definitely celebrating my kid's birthday. I'm definitely getting a Christmas tree for my kid's Christmas. Like, I'm definitely baking a turkey or roasting a turkey for Thanksgiving. Like, this is happening. And so we almost came into like a new beginning and the ability to like celebrate that. It's really about leaving behind a rigid past, okay? And it can also, just doing that alone can open doors to a new life and ultimately a new life together, because at the end of the day, it's like you're not a byproduct of what brought you into this world. You can still change it and create a different result. So finding joy in those moments and celebrating small steps, baby steps as they will, was super important for our marriage and super important for our relationship. I don't think we would be here where we were today if we didn't take the time to celebrate the little moments. At the end of the day, he was a Jehovah's Witness. I was someone who came from a traumatic childhood. He was leaving this cult, this religion. I was trying to start my new life without my mom in the picture, without my, abusive past. And so we found common ground and we were able to move forward and we were able to be together as long as we have. And as of tomorrow, it will be 18 years of marriage and 20 years of being together. We were together for 2 years before we got married. So it's a freaking accomplishment. Okay. I don't care what anyone says, but, yeah, I wanted to share that experience because, this journey hasn't been simple. People that meet us right off the bat, they're like, oh shit, like, I didn't know you went through all that. I didn't know that's your background. I didn't know that's what you came from. And people are like astounded at like, wow, like you guys have been able to like come from that and then come out on the other side. That shit's not easy. Okay, just because we talk about it as if it's an accomplishment, it's not an accomplishment. It was fucking hard, but it's been rewarding in ways I couldn't have expected. I'm grateful for the growth. I'm grateful for the deeper connection with my husband. I'm grateful for everything my husband and I have learned along the way, even through the darkest of times, I look at it now and I'm like, damn, like I needed that. Like I needed to learn the hard way for that. Or I needed, he says the same thing and we come together, So if you're listening today and you can relate, know that you are not alone. As part of Empathic Chronicles, no one is ever alone. Relationships, especially those where one partner, let alone both of them, are healing from challenging pasts. It takes time, it takes love, and it takes a lot of understanding. But at the end of the day, it is so worth it. Like if you truly love that person and you truly believe in that person, it is worth every single moment. So I love my husband. I am so proud of him for everything that he's done. He, went to college as an adult and he graduated and he got a degree and he's built this incredible life for our family. And I'm super grateful. I love that we're both very motivated, very, very self-driven, very devoted to our careers and our family. And we're able to celebrate that by living together, and having this family. So thanks so much for tuning in to Empathic Chronicles. If this episode spoke to you, I want you to feel free to reach out on our Instagram page, Empathic Chronicles, and share your own experiences. If you know what this is like, if you've married someone from a different religion, if you have had a traumatic background, childhood, whatever, we are all here to support each other in our unique journeys. And nobody is better than thou, and we will all make it through in this tough world. We will make it through. So until next time, take care and keep growing and continue to be empathetic, because at the end of the day, there's nothing better than having empathy. Love you guys, and so glad that I got this episode in for you guys. I'm almost like super excited to do another one right away, but we will keep on chugging on through Empathic Chronicles and be there for one another, because that is what we do, okay? I will talk to you later. Bye.